Alright, we're subtracting two polynomials. Okay, number 1 on quiz version number 3. Because it's positive on the outside of the first parentheses, we can just drop our parentheses. Because it's negative or minus on the outside of the parentheses, okay, we drop the parentheses, but we change the sign of every coefficient. Positive 7 becomes negative 7 becomes positive 7. And this positive 5 became negative 5. My highest exponent is 4. I have no other exponents of 4, so it's negative 4x to the 4th. My next highest exponent is 3. There are no other 3's, so negative 5x to the 3rd. I have x to the 2nd, x to the 2nd, 7x to the 2nd, and 7x to the 2nd is positive 14 x to the 2nd. Then I have positive 8 and negative 7. 8 minus 7 is 1. Alright, this is number 2 on version 3. I am subtracting polynomials. My first set of parentheses is positive, so I'm going to drop my parentheses. The outside of my second set of parentheses is negative, so I'm going to drop my parentheses, but I have to change all of the signs. Positive 4 becomes negative 4. Negative 7x to the 4th becomes positive 7x to the 4th. And negative 4x becomes positive 4x. My highest exponent is 4. And I have another x to the 4th. 7x to the 4th and 7x to the 4th is 14x to the 4th. Never change your exponents when you're adding or subtracting. My next highest exponent is 1, x to the 1 and 4x to the 1. 1x to the 1 and 4x to the 1 is 5x to the 1, which we don't need to put. I put them on here just to show. Then I'm left with positive 3 and negative 4. 3 minus 4 is negative 1. Right, number 3. Okay, I'm multiplying a binomial times a binomial. 2 terms times 2 terms needs a box for 4 terms. I have 6n excuse me, minus 1 and 4n plus 2. 6n times 4n is 24n squared. 4n times negative 1 is negative 4n. 6n times 2 is 12n. And 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. I have like terms right here. So I'm going to have 24n squared. 12n plus negative 4n is 8n. And then I have my negative 2. Alright, number 4. I have a binomial times a binomial, 2 terms times 2 terms. Those need 4 boxes. Okay. I have a minus 4 and 3a plus 4. 3a times a is 3a squared. 3a times negative 4 is negative 12a. 4 times a is 4a, and 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. I have like terms, a's to the first power, so I now have 3a squared, because that's my only squared, 4a minus 12a, or plus negative 12a, is negative 8a, and then I have my minus 16. Alright, number 5, 3k plus 1 times k minus 1 is a binomial times a binomial, so we need 4 boxes. I have 3k plus 1 and k minus 1. 3k times k is 3k squared. K times 1 is k. 3k times negative 1 is negative 3k. Negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. Here I have like terms, so I am left with 3k squared. Negative 3k plus 1k is negative 2k, and then my minus 1. Alright, number 6. I have a binomial times a trinomial, 2 terms times 3 terms. 2 times 3 is 6. So we need 6 boxes. Okay, I have x minus 4 times 3x squared minus x minus 1. 3x squared times x is 3x to the third. X times negative x is negative x squared. X times negative 1 is negative 1x, which is just negative x. 3x squared times negative 4 is negative 12x squared. Negative 4 times negative x is 4x. And negative 4 times positive 1 is positive 4. I have like terms here. Don't forget that's negative. And I have like terms here. Okay. I have 3x cubed. Negative 12x squared and negative 1x squared is negative 13x squared. If you need to put the 1 here to make it easier to see, do it. If you need the 1 there, use it. 4x squared plus negative 1x, 4x minus 1x, or 4x plus negative 1x is 3x. And then I just have my 4. Okay, again we have a binomial times a trinomial, 5x minus 2 times 7x squared minus 5 minus 1. Okay, I have 2 things times 3 things, or 2 terms times 3 terms. 2 times 3 is 6. I need 6 boxes. I have 5x minus 2 and times 7x squared minus 5x minus 1. 5x times 7x squared is 35x cubed. 5x times negative 5x is negative 25x squared. 5x times negative 1 is negative 5x. Negative 2 times 7x squared is negative 14x squared. Negative 2 times negative 5x is 10x. Negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2. I have like terms here and different like terms here. I will start with 35x cubed. Negative 14 and negative 25, both x squared, gives me negative 39x squared. 10x and negative 5x is positive 5x plus 2. Alright, number 8, the directions said to factor out the greatest common factor. That doesn't mean just to find the greatest common factor, but we actually have to factor it. Okay, first, I'm going to figure out what my greatest common factor is by doing the prime factorization of each number. 10 is negative, so I'm going to start by getting out negative 1 times 2 times 5. It's negative 10. Positive 10 is 2 times 5, and we have the n. Negative 20 is negative 1. 20 is 2 times 10. 10 is 2 times 5. And we have the two n's. Alright, I have 5's that match in all three boxes. And I have 2's that match in all three boxes. Nothing else matches in all three boxes. So my greatest common factor is 10. But because it told us to factor it, not just find greatest common factor, I've got to open my parentheses and put in everything that's left. In my first box, I have negative 1. In my second box, I have n. In my third box, negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. And then I have n squared left. And close parentheses. Alright, number 19. We're also supposed to factor out the greatest common factor. Okay, but we have to completely factor it. Okay, so I'm going to break it up before each sign. Don't draw those lines between your plus or minus. You might miss something. Or through your plus or minus. You might miss something. 8 is 2 times 2 times 2. M to the 5th is m times m times m times m times m. 6 is 2 times 3. M squared is m times m. 4 is 2 times 2, and then the m. Now, I have 2 that matches in all three boxes, and I have m that matches in all three boxes. Nothing else matches anymore. So in this box, I have 2 times m, which is 2m. Okay, and you'll notice it's 2m in every box. Now we got to do what's left. 2 times 2 is 4. And I have 4 m's. M to the 4th. In the second box, 3 times m is 3m. And in the third box, I'm just left with a positive 2. Alright, number 10 tells us to factor completely. My a is 1. I'm going to slide. Okay, in the top of my x, I will have 70. In the bottom of my x, I will have 17 because my b is 17. 70 is 1 times 70, 2 times 35, 5 times 14, and 7 times 10. Now the only one there that could get me 17 is 7 and 10. Because everything's positive up in my equation, in my expression, I'm not worried about any negative signs. Alright, 7 times 10 is 70, 7 plus 10 is 17. My variable is n plus 7, n plus 10. The number that I slid was 1, so I'm dividing both of them by 1. And any time that that is 1, those factors are not going to change. Number 11, 5b squared plus 12b minus 32. The first thing we need to do is look at each term to see if any of them have a common factor besides 1, and these do not. Okay, so I'm going to slide my 5 over to my negative 32. And that, when I multiply, that is negative 160. My b is 12. There are many ways to multiply to get 160. There's 1 times 160, 2 times 80, 4 times 40, 5 times 32, 8 times 20, and 10 times 16. Okay, now my b is 12, so I need to either add or subtract to get 12. Since this is negative, one has to be positive, one has to be negative, so we're looking at 2 we can subtract to get 12. and 8 and 20 are the ones that I need. Now, as I look at my b is positive. We know one of these has to be negative because this is negative, but because b is positive, my bigger number has to be positive. So my smaller number has to be negative. Okay, my variable is b. I have b minus 8 and b minus 20. Remember, this is slide and divide, so the number that I slid is 5, so I have to divide by 5. 8 will not divide evenly by 5, but it is reduced completely, so I will slide my 5 back in front of the b. 20 does divide by 5. We get b minus 4. And if you need to check your work, you've got a binomial times a binomial. Use your boxes, multiply them back together, and you will get 5b squared plus 12b minus 32. Alright, number 12 on version 3. 24a squared minus 60a. Okay, this quiz does not include special case expressions, so we're not worried about difference of squares. Okay, I'm looking at factoring both of them. They're both even, so I know I can at least divide by 2. 24 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. And then I have my a squared, a times a. Negative 60, we're going to take negative 1. 60 is 2 times 30. 30 is 5 times 6. 6 is 2 times 3. We're just trying to get all our prime factors. And then I have my a. I know I have a's that match. I have 2's that match. I have 2's that match again. I have 3's that match. As I look, nothing in both back boxes match. So I need to look at one of my boxes and multiply everything together that I circled. 2 times 2 is 4, times 3 is 12. A. Okay, what's left is 2 times a is 2a. Negative 1 times 5 is negative 5. And I have completely factored number 12. Number 12.